Good afternoon, listeners. You're very welcome to the program. You're listening to Apna Radio, broadcasting at 93.9 Dublin South FM. This is Thursday afternoon in Dublin and in London and in Europe. Not all over Europe, but in certain parts of UK and Ireland, 3 o'clock, and India time, 8:30. So please do stay with me until next hour. सुनने वालों को सिराज ज़ैदी का बहुत बहुत प्यार भरा आदाब, नमस्कार, and good afternoon. This is your own Apna weekly program, broadcasting at 93.9 Dublin South FM. Every week I try to bring news and wonderful things to you because the world is an interesting place, and I'll brood over today what's going on in different parts of the world, particularly in Ireland and in India too. For that, no better person than the Charmaine Colvin herself, and Charmaine has put together a beautiful news item about India. So, India this week, as she does great work. So, there you go. Charmaine, you take it away. India this week.
Good afternoon. I'm Charmaine Colvin, and you are listening to Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM. US President Donald Trump's decision to lower reciprocal tariffs on India from 50% to 18% has been met with a sense of relief in Asia's third largest economy, even as precise details on the agreement remain sketchy. India paid the highest tariffs in the world after Trump raised import duties on Indian goods from 25% to 50% in August last year, saying Delhi's purchase of discounted Russian oil was helping fund Moscow's war effort in Ukraine. After his call with India's Prime Minister on Monday, Trump claimed Narendra Modi had agreed to stop buying Russian oil and buy much more from the United States and potentially Venezuela. India has not commented on these exact claims, but Modi thanked Trump on behalf of the 1.4 billion people of India for this wonderful announcement, saying he hoped to take the partnership with the US to unprecedented heights. The agreement comes after Trump's trade war soured carefully cultivated relations between Washington and Delhi, with exports from India to the US falling sharply across key job-creating sectors such as textiles, seafood and jewellery. Trump's tariffs also forced a notoriously protectionist government in Delhi to expedite a flurry of other trade agreements and diversify its export markets. Last week, India and the EU announced the mother of all trade deals, eliminating tariffs on 80 to 90% of goods. It was Delhi's 9th free trade agreement in 4 years, as the deal with Washington showed no signs of progress. The long-delayed announcement by Trump was, as expected, widely welcomed by the Indian industry. India's aviation regulator said it found no defect in the fuel control switch of a Boeing 7878 Dreamliner jet grounded by Air India based on a pilot's report. The issue was reported at the weekend after the plane, which took off from London, landed in India's Bengaluru city. The regulator said that while starting the engine during takeoff, the crew noticed that twice the fuel control switch, which regulates the flow of fuel into the plane's engines, did not remain positively latched in the run position when light vertical pressure was applied. It remained stable the third time, and the crew closely monitored the aircraft during the flight, which was completed without incident. Air India has said in a statement that it informed India's aviation regulator about the issue and that it was getting the pilot's concerns checked on a priority basis. The Directorate General of Civil Aviation said on Tuesday that when the switches were operated according to Boeing's recommended procedure, they were found to be satisfactory, staying at run instead of moving to cut-off, which can stop fuel supply to the engines. The grounding of the plane gained a lot of attention as it came amid an ongoing investigation into last June's plane crash involving an Air India aircraft of the same model, which killed 260 people. The crash of the London-bound Air India Boeing 7878 Dreamliner occurred less than a minute after the plane took off from Ahmedabad Airport in western India. India's Aircraft Accident Investigation Bureau is investigating the crash, and a final report is expected to be released in the next few months. On Sunday, India's Finance Minister, Nirmala Sitharaman, presented her annual budget for 26-27, announcing higher infrastructure spending and measures to support domestic manufacturing amid rising global uncertainties. India is expected to close this financial year with 7.4% gross domestic product growth, according to the country's economic survey, but economic expansion will slow slightly next year as US President Donald Trump's tariffs on Indian exporters start taking a greater toll. The budget has laid a strong emphasis on fiscal restraint, targeting a lower deficit for the upcoming financial year. The fiscal deficit is the gap between the government's total expenditure and its total revenue. The murder of an interfaith couple and the arrest of the woman's brothers by the police for the alleged crime has shocked a small village in India's northern Uttar Pradesh state, where residents have lived in harmony for years. The bodies of 19-year-old 𝐀𝐩𝐧𝐚, a Hindu, and 27-year-old Mohammed Aman, a Muslim, were found buried near a riverbank on the outskirts of Umri village on the 21st of January. Police say they were beaten to death with a spade 2 days earlier, allegedly by 𝐀𝐩𝐧𝐚's 3 brothers, who have been arrested. They are in custody and have not commented on the killings. Police believe it to be a case of honour killing, murder by relatives or community members to punish women for falling in love or marrying outside of their caste or religion. India's National Crime Records Bureau began recording honour killings in 2014 when it listed 18 cases nationwide. Its latest annual report recorded 38 such cases in 23. Activists, however, say the numbers are significantly higher, in hundreds every year, as many cases are recorded simply as homicide. According to the federal government, around 50,000 Indians are killed by snake bites each year, roughly half of all deaths worldwide. Some estimates suggest the toll could be even higher. Between 2000 and 2019, India may have seen as many as 1.2 million deaths, an average of 58,000 per year, a 2020 study said. Now, a new report by GST, Global Snakebite Task Force, has found that 99% of healthcare workers in India face challenges administering antivenom, the life-saving antibodies that neutralise toxins in venom. Researchers surveyed 904 medical professionals across India, Brazil, Indonesia and Nigeria, the countries most affected by snake bites, and found similar barriers: poor infrastructure, limited access to antivenom, and insufficient training. Nearly half of the professionals reported that delays in treatment had led to serious complications in their patients, including amputations, surgeries, or lifelong mobility problems. In 2024, India launched the National Action Plan for Prevention and Control of Snakebite Envenoming, with the aim to halve snakebite deaths by 2030. The plan focuses on better surveillance, improved antivenom availability and research, enhanced medical capacity and public awareness campaigns. Experts agree it is a step in the right direction, but implementation has been inconsistent. And finally, in cricket news, the 2026 Men's T20 World Cup starts on the 7th of February at 05:30, with Pakistan facing the Netherlands in Colombo. It is one of 3 games on the opening day, with the West Indies versus Scotland at 9:30 and India versus USA at 3:30. Pakistan will take part in the men's T20 but will not play their scheduled match against tournament co-hosts India. The country had been considering boycotting the competition after Bangladesh withdrew, citing safety fears over travelling to India. Political tensions have meant Pakistan and India have not faced each other outside men's major tournaments since 2013, while India have not played in Pakistan since 2008. And that's all from me. You have been listening to Apna Radio 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Thank you so much indeed. And what a powerful news, and the energy and the flow that you had today in the news is crisp and chirpy and absolutely crystal clear content that you have put together. And this is a delightful information and the news from Charmaine Colvin to Apna Radio. Now, talking about various issues today in the program, obviously the Epstein file, we will be talking about that. That is all over the place. And since 3 million Epstein file has been opened up, and without any surprise as we call it, that the names of prominent Indian politicians and businessmen are there as well, vis-a-vis Anil Ambani, who had been in touch with the Jeffrey Epstein, the infamous sex offender who died in a prison jail in New York. But he had extraordinary tentacles spreading all the way from New York to all over the world. And there are a lot of people are getting exposed to that, including here in the Northern Ireland, the so-called peacemaker, the George Mitchell, whose bust has been in the Northern Ireland, the Queen's University in Northern Ireland, has been removed now, and George Mitchell has been named. So is Bill Clinton. So is many other people. Peter Mandelson, who was the High Commission of Northern Ireland when he was removed from or left, Hong Kong. But all of these people are part and parcel of this big gang of pedophiles or sex offenders. And of course, our Donald Trump is also very much part of it. But all of that is reaching up all the way to India. So who is clean, who is not clean, how they were involved, and what not, need to be explained, and who will get prosecuted in the end, if anybody will. Highly unlikely that anybody will get prosecuted on these matters. But the world shape, the shape of the world is supple, is keep flexing, it's changing. Now the trade is back to 12%. It used to be imposed by 50% last year, and indeed, when the people were complaining about it to the Donald Trump said, the thuggery of Donald Trump and the thuggery of his imposing his, wishes. I'm going to talk about that in the context of the, in the UN and the UN peacekeeping forces, that he's forcing Ireland to remove the peacekeeping forces from Lebanon. Because that's something that I'll talk about that after this particular issue. But Sharad is here to talk about the Jeffrey Epstein files and what has happened when it comes to India. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this particular piece of information from Sharad.
We are living through a moment of fast-moving global events, and few have been as unsettling or as far-reaching as the disclosures emerging from the Epstein files. In this unfolding global storm, India appears not merely as a distant observer, but as one of the most consequential affected countries, entangled in what increasingly looks like a vast web of questionable associations, opaque dealings, and potential blackmail. Economically, India has been seriously affected by the disclosures of Epstein files. Not how it is affecting the politicians, but now we know the great losses, the manipulations that has happened in dealings of Indian government. At the center of this moment lies India's evolving relationship with United States, a relationship now shaped by a trade deal. In 2025, Indian merchandise exports to United States stood at approximately $86 billion, making the US India's single largest export destination. India ran a trade surplus of over $41 billion that year, up from $35 billion in 2023. Total bilateral trade between India and US touched nearly $131 billion. Numbers that underline just how economically weighty this relationship between the two countries is. And yet, under this new trade agreement announced just a couple of days ago, Indian exports of US now faces tariff of around 18%. It was 25%, now it is 18%. While many American goods entering India will attract 0% tariff. This also includes, surprise, agriculture products. Despite repeated public assurance by none other than Prime Minister Modi that India would never open its agricultural markets because doing so would devastate Indian farmers, who are the backbone of the Indian economy, not from today, but ever since India has came into being. India is home to nearly 140 million farmers and agricultural support close to half of country's population. Yet, in 2025 alone, US agricultural export to India surged by 34%, rising from $2 billion to roughly $3 billion. By contrast, have a look at this one. Indian agricultural exports to US, including rice and shrimps, grew by only 5% to about $6 billion. Meanwhile, several Indian export sectors, textile, leather goods, gems and jewelry, they saw double-digit decline in volume since last year because of the tariff, with some categories that is hurting our small and medium businesses as much as 40 to 60% just because of Trump tariff pressure. So is this trade deal made under tariff pressure by manipulation? This trade realignment, if you refer, this was sold domestically in India as a strategic reset, but its costs were borne quietly by our poor farmers, by the small workers, small businesses, and small producers. And while international media outlets from United States to Europe have saturated their coverage with forensic examination of Epstein files, the Indian media, the Godi media response have been at best. There has been only cursory mentions, some fleeting headlines, and a complete absence of sustained scrutiny, particularly when Indian political figures like Prime Minister Modi, corporate powers like Anil Ambani, Hardeep Puri, and the state itself are being implicated. Hardeep Puri was or is in finance ministry. He is an ex-foreign service diplomat, but now has joined BJP. It is this silence that an older controversy returns with renewed force, the Rafale fighter jet deal. If you remember, let me recap. In 2016, India signed a government-to-government contract with France to purchase 36 Dassault Rafale aircraft for approximately 7.8 billion euros, that is about 60,000 crore Indian rupees. Now this deal included weapon systems, logistic supports, and India began receiving those aircraft from 2019 onwards. But this deal marked a dramatic shift from the earlier negotiations that the armed forces and the Indian government were making with France in year 2007 under Prime Minister then, Mr. Manmohan Singh. India had then been negotiating, if you remember, 126 aircraft instead of what we got now as 36, with an approximate unit cost of 700 crores per unit, per aircraft. Although this contract was never finalized, but the structure was transparent, competitive, and institutional. Everybody was involved. But in 2016 deal, the number of 126 aircrafts was reduced to 36 only, while the effective unit cost rose to estimated 1,600 crores per aircraft. And more troubling now comes in, the maintenance contract to these aircrafts was not awarded to Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, our own taxpayer-funded public sector company with decades of experience, but this contract of maintenance goes to Reliance Defence. This is a private firm incorporated only just a few weeks before the deal, and of course, Reliance Defence does not have any prior experience in defence manufacturing or maintenance. At that time, this decision defied logic, isn't it? And raised unanswered questions. Today, these questions return, sharpened by new claims emerging from the Epstein files. According to the disclosures in Epstein files, Anil Ambani allegedly functioned as a broker within a nexus involving Donald Trump, Narendra Modi, Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, and his son-in-law as intermediary as Jared Kushner, alongside with other political inner circles like Steve Bannon. Now, Steve Bannon is again convicted. Jeffrey Epstein was the person who was connecting these threads. He was at the time already convicted. The Epstein files reportedly suggest that a broader geopolitical understanding was in play, possibly involving India's recalibration of diplomacy towards Israel, encouraged or facilitated at the behest of Donald Trump. And this understanding, it is claimed, exerted undue pressure on the Rafale deal, alerting its structure, its partner, and its priorities towards Anil Ambani. And the consequence of this shift became very clear after a decade here in 2025 and 26. Now, The consequence of that deal 10 years ago comes in May of 2025 during a 4-day intense confrontation with Pakistan called Operation Sindoor. India's Air Force strategy, heavily centered around Rafale aircrafts, they were tested in real combat for the first time. Open source reports and foreign analysis, including European media, of course Donald Trump also making claims, indicate that at least one Rafale aircraft was shot and India lost 6 Rafale aircrafts, marking the first confirmed combat loss of the platform. Now, this claim that India lost up to 8 fighter jets have circulated widely, and crucially, they have not been categorically denied even by the top senior military figures of Indian armed forces. And this raises a grave question whether India's defense preparedness and procurement choices was compromised by opaque decision-making, external pressures, and non-institutional influence. Following the Rafale deal in 2017, if you remember, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi became the first Indian Prime Minister to visit Israel. And this marked a historic break from decades, or for that matter ever, the Indian diplomatic tradition, which sought to balance strategic interest with principled commitment to non-alignment and fight against injustice. India had been an advocate for vulnerable population even at the economic cost. It was a principled stance even during the times of BJP government Atal Bihari Vajpayee was heading. So in this diplomatic realignment, why did it happen? Because Anil Ambani is alleged to have played a pivotal role along with Jeffrey Epstein, facilitating not only the Israel visit but subsequent defense engagements up to $700 million and high-level meetings involving United States, including Prime Minister Modi and Donald Trump. According to Epstein files, Epstein himself acknowledged that the Indian Prime Minister's office largely complied with the strategic framework envisioned by Trump and that the anticipated deals were executed accordingly. What is striking is who was missing from this process? India's professional diplomatic machinery, Ministry of External Affairs, the most educated, going through the rigor of passing the UPSC exams, the Indian Foreign Service, the ambassadors who have gone through the experience of geopolitics, and of course the institutional planners like the Indian Armed Forces. They all have been sidelined. They all appear to be sitting on the benches. Instead, shadow channels have emerged, run by convicted. And if the email records cited in the Epstein files are to be believed, the central figure to those channels as of now were Anil Ambani, Jeffrey Epstein, Hardeep Puri, and others. So what this leads us is the most disturbing question of all. Did this mode of deal-making compromise India's national security by placing it directly or indirectly, as we may term it, in the orbit of convicted criminals? Why has Parliament not held a full, transparent debate on Anil Ambani's role in one of India's most sensitive defense procurement? These questions grow darker when placed alongside reports that Anil Ambani at one point faced the prospect of imprisonment over unpaid dues to Ericsson and allegedly sought financial assistance from Epstein to secure loans and avoid his incarceration. If this is true, then the question is unavoidable. Was India's national security placed at risk to safeguard just the personal financial survival of a private businessman? This is not merely a political issue, if you see. It is a question of India's diplomats, of men and women who have historically upheld India's interest with professionalism and restraints. Were their capabilities bypassed, or they were just told to do, but the strategy lied somewhere else? Finally, before I leave, one more question. What has become to India's credibility when it appears that Prime Minister's office itself could be accessed and influenced through criminal convicted means? And what does this mean for the credibility of India's armed forces if a financially distressed businessman like Anil Ambani could influence decisions affecting the most mission-critical defense assets of the nation? Taken together, the Epstein files just suggest a pattern of abrupt, centralized, reckless decision-making, exposing the vulnerability of Indian state. And as the leader of opposition has alleged, The Prime Minister in all this saga appears to be compromised. Today, the US-India trade deal is tending towards a compromised deal. While more disclosures may yet emerge, but for now, one conclusion is difficult to escape. Many Indians are left with deep and growing distrust, not only of the political leadership, but of the powerful interest and the structure that enable them. The national interest, the very idea of nationalism, repeatedly invoked as the cornerstone of India's strategy, the political strategy, the sentiments, they appear to be dangerously eroded. With those thoughts, with those questions, deep concerns about the real nationalism of India, I leave you until next week. Stay safe, stay informed, dutifully ask questions. At the end of the day, someone has to stand up. Bye for now.
Dublin South FM. You wouldn't buy a car without knowing its history. So why would you buy a story without knowing who's telling it? Come here and I tell you. It's not always easy to verify what you see, read or hear. But now there's help. Visit www.bemediasmart.ie. Stop, think, check. Be Media Smart. Brought to you by Media Literacy Ireland, supported by RTE. 93.9 Dublin South FM.
Indeed, welcome back to the programme. And what Sharad has really researched and broadcasted today is commendable. I have an absolute respect for his research and a deep commitment to the national security. Now, the points, as you can easily work it out and, raise from his research and analysis of the matter is that our deep national interest are in the hands of few Gujarati people, including Mr. Narendra Modi, our beloved PM, and of course Anil Ambani, the most the powerful Ambani group. Anil Ambani and Mukesh Ambani are the two brothers who are running literally, as a hand in gloves relationship between Narendra Modi and the power, and sidelining the professionalism, sidelining, as he quite rightly has said, that those who are qualified, passing the UPSC exams, sitting somewhere. And of course, it's just been proven that the debacle happened in the India-Pakistan war and Rafale was down and all that. That why in those millions of deals with the Rafale aircraft, how much millions gone into Anil Ambani's pocket? God knows. So this is something that we need to raise an awareness of the public. Public cannot just excuse themselves that, I'm busy with dal roti and I'm busy with my own life, with trying to put together the meal on the table for children and trying to find the education, the money for their education. No, wake up, raise your voice and tell the world what's going on in the country is wrong. And this is something that's what journalists like Sharad Awasthi and here at the Apna Radio, we're trying to actually make it some sense to the loyalty to the state. We do deeply care for our nation. We do deeply care. And when we see the erosion of this kind of blatant, not discrimination is the word, the blatant, criminal effects of these powerful people who are relying on each other's, and they're working with the corridors of powers have been referred in that email. I've seen myself that Jeffrey Epstein email between him and Anil Ambani. In fact, quite a few television stations actually operating in the Middle East vis-a-vis Al Jazeera has done a massive article on that as well. So there's a fair bit of information available on the internet if you really want to dabble into it and to work it out and talk about it in social media. Talk about among your friends that this is at the highest corruption, at the highest level that is taking place. With whom? The most despicable, the most criminal, and the most pedophile people like Jeffrey Epstein, who's obviously no longer around, and he committed suicide or been killed in the jail in New York. So, and Donald Trump is also has been seen rubbing shoulder, and so was the George Mitchell. Who was George Mitchell? The guy who brokered the peace deal between Northern Ireland and Republic of Ireland. Excuse me, when it comes to the peace process and the peace in the Northern Ireland. So these guys are not clean at all, and that's what bothers sometimes to people with a conscience. Now, this is a word. Conscience is dying in youth. Conscience is dying in the minds of those who have been toxicated by these stupid reels in their phones, and indeed are enjoying films like Dhurandhar and all that nonsense type of material has been bombarded upon it. Now, country, 1.4 billion people. Where are the people with a conscience? The other thing is, which is also very obvious, is the Speaker of Parliament has now enforcing the opposition like Rahul Gandhi, what he can say and what he can't say. Chiriya ur, yes. Mana ur, yes. That's the type of language he's kind of been using, that's the Speaker of Parliament, that he cannot talk about Modi, he cannot talk about Parliament, international issues and external affairs. Hello, Parliament is a free space for opposition to talk about anything under the sun. No. Under the current environment, you cannot talk about it. And therefore, you've been told to sit and be quiet. So on that note, he turns around and he said, Mr. Speaker, can you tell me what I can say and what I can't say? You tell me what I can say, so I'll say that. Now, this kind of level of democracy, it's gone to the descending at the level of hypocrisy, not democracy. Anyway, big issue. This is a big issue, and I'm no doubt that it'll continue and carry on and on and on for the next while, because these are the serious matters that need to be shed a light upon them. And we would be discussing about that. But what else is happening is in this country, we're talking about the neutrality and the triple lock system of Irish neutrality against joining NATO or joining the armed forces and all that. I'll talk about that in a minute, but before that, I must take a track. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this particular track, and I'll be back soon. So bye for now.
महबूब मेरे महबूब मेरे महबूब मेरे महबूब मेरे तू है तो दुनिया कितनी हंसी है जो तू नहीं तो कुछ भी नहीं है मौसम की तू हो तो बढ़ जाती है कीमत मौसम की ये जो तेरी आंखें हैं शोला शबनम सी यहीं मरना भी है मुझको मुझे जीना भी यहीं है महबूब मेरे महबूब मेरे महबूब मेरे महबूब मेरे तू है तो दुनिया कितनी हंसी है जो तू नहीं तो कुछ भी नहीं है महबूब मेरे शर्मा किसको जन्नत की रंगी गलियों का मुझको तेरा दामन है बिस्तर गलियों का जहाँ पर है तेरी बाहें मेरी जन्नत भी वही है महबूब मेरे महबूब मेरे महबूब मेरे महबूब मेरे तू है तो दुनिया कितनी हंसी है
जो तू नहीं तो कुछ भी नहीं है महबूब मेरे रख दे मुझको तू अपना दीवाना करके रख दे मुझको तू अपना दीवाना करके
नजदीक आजा फिर देखो तुझको जी भर के
मेरे जैसे होंगे लाखों कोई भी तुझसा नहीं है महबूब मेरे
ओ महबूब मेरे
महबूब मेरे महबूब मेरे
तू है तो दुनिया कितनी हंसी है जो तू नहीं तो कुछ भी नहीं है
महबूब मेरे
Yeah, this is a beautiful song, Mehboob Mere, Muhammad Rafi, and indeed, of course, Lata Mangeshkar is the wonderful, you can't go wrong when you're actually listening to Sunehre old songs of our film industry. And I'll talk about the film industry as well, because there's a lot of films that I'm not watching now these days. Another great films, in fact, it takes about a couple of days. You don't get time to watch the whole film in one go. A film called Bazaar that was made in 1984. Nasiruddin Shah, Smita Patil, and also Supriya Singh. Not Supriya Singh. Supriya Singh is a counselor here. I'm talking about Supriya Pathak, and a wonderful new artist at the time, the sister of, Ratna Pathak Shah. Anyway, the wonderful film it was written and directed by Sagar Sarhadi. Now, you've never heard of probably the name of these people, because they were old writer-director and indeed a very, very talented people. Sagar Sarhadi come from, British India, which was undivided Pakistan without Pakistan at the time, and he moved to Mumbai, and he actually wrote films like Kabhi Kabhi, Yash Ji ke saath unhone kaam kiya. He worked with Yash Chopra, beautiful films, Kabhi Kabhi, and many other beautiful films that he has written and directed, and was very, very powerful with the songs and things like that. Sagar Sarhadi wrote Bazaar, basically, and he directed that as well. What is it about? Check it out. It's free, available on the YouTube. And the beautiful thing is that these HD prints are now, high-definition prints are available on YouTube. So if you have great cameras, everybody is buying beautiful cameras these days, HD cameras and all that, you'll enjoy more. But if you want to watch it on iPad or your own HD on your desktop, that's something better, because it's a slightly bigger screen. But you can watch it in succession. And why this film is so important, because that's sort of oozes with the character of a region called Hyderabad. Hyderabad Muslim character at that time was very much in focus. So therefore, Farooq Sheikh is also in it, and a fresh face from the industry at the time, and many other talented artists in that. So Bharat Kapoor, do you remember Bharat Kapoor, a guy with the moustache? He was also in it as well. I don't know what happened to him. Is he still alive or dead or whatever? whatever. But the things move on, the industry move on, and we are now living in an age of, by the way, talking about new age, a new time, a new film called Oh Romeo is coming up, where our friend who's been here in Ireland, Vishal Bhardwaj, who is a wonderful director, he's obsessed with Shakespeare, and he's done a lot of films with Shakespeare. The Romeo and Juliet kind of genre, calling it Oh Romeo, is releasing in a few days' time, this weekend, appropriately and timely so for the Valentine's Day. Now, talking about Valentine's Day, which is the 14th of February, we also have many other occasions, and one of the occasions of the Muslim community has been the birthday of 12th Imam called Imam Zamana, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu. A lot of people, Muslim people, particularly the Shia people, believe, and of course, there are a lot of Sunni people as well, and many Muslims believe that we do have a Messiah to come. Just like Christians believe the Messiah will come, therefore, he is the 12th apostle, son of Muhammad, the Prophet of Islam, and his grandson, 12th grandson, will appear in the world to create an ultimate justice. And he is alive. He is in what we call it a major occultation. Major occultation, there's a minor occultation, ghaibat al-sughra and ghaibat al-kubra. So these are the Arabic words for minor occultation and major occultation. Major occultation means that he's alive, he's around, and he will appear. We cannot see him, but he sees everything that is going on in the world. The power of 12th Imam, if you really want to see, you need to visit his holy shrine in Samarra, which is in Iraq. And of course, his name's mosque is developed in Jamkaran, which is in the city of Jamkaran in Iran. That's where people are predicting that he will appear. And he will then take a chance to, talking about the recent history, a saber rattling and a really eyeball to an eyeball conflict between the United States of America and Iran, which was orchestrated by the Zionist regime at the behest of the Zionist regime that Donald Trump was sending his the most powerful ship in the Red Sea and all that. So all of that was developing attention, and the social media then full of this kind of nonsense talk of, America will remove Khamenei, America will take over Iran, and they spent something like $20 million to destabilize Iran by orchestrating violence, street violence. 200 mosques were destroyed, and hundreds and thousands of people have been displaced. Business were destroyed. Innocent people were killed on the street, orchestrated in order to destabilize a nation. Imagine an external force spending that sort of money to destabilize another nation. Have you heard of that? It's something happening in Europe? Have you heard of that in Far East? No, you have not. Then why Middle East? Then why Iran? Why these kind of things are not raised on the national or international platform? That who gives them a mandate? Donald Trump's gives them a mandate. Netanyahu gives them a mandate to spend that sort of money. Yes, now he's saying that buy the Venezuelan oil. Who? That's not your oil, it's Venezuelan oil. But you have captured, by force, you have stolen Venezuelan oil, and now you're trading that to India. This kind of thuggery and total disrespect for other nations and destabilizing the other nations is their business. And this is also, if you really want to dabble into it, read a latest book which has been published by a CIA guy. CIA is also very much the kind of instrument which does these sort of things, sends the agents around. And now we know that Indian agents, clever, qualified, the computer literate youngsters are being sent to Iran because Iran had no visa policy for India for a while. Now it's back again. You need a visa and all that. It's not that easy to get in now. But before that, it was very easy. And because traditionally India has been sending the scholars, the religious scholars to India to become these scholars. But now it's changed, and they are the one who do this kind of destabilizing work. The espionage, this book, I'm forgetting the title, but the book of CIA espionage, if you Google it, and some Irish connection with that. There's a guy called from Donegal who's residing and living in America. He wrote that book. So the dirty work of that is actually destabilizing the foreign country, another country, vis-a-vis, Iran. Why Iran? Because it's oil rich, mineral rich, and 79 years ago, almost in 1979, 70 years ago, they kicked out, they removed the Shah of Iran, and the Islamic Revolution happened in 1979, and they took their own destiny in their own hands. They said that, that we are not for US, not for the East, nor for the West. We have our own destiny in our own hand. Neither king for a Kaiser. We will deal with that. And who was that? It was Imam Khomeini Qaddasallahu Nafsi Zaki, the guy who actually created this religious head of the nation, who was in exile under Saddam Hussein, who came back from France, where he was being put together in the exile and all that. Now, why am I talking about it? Because their national day is coming up on the 10th of February. So next week, maybe I'll be talking about that as well in detail. But for the minute, they were defeated. So Imam Zamana, as we call it, the 12th Imam, Imam Mahdi Jalal Ta'ala Farajahu, he's the one who's overseeing everything what's going on in the world. And whatever their power they have, their power was absolutely grounded because the neighboring countries have refused to support their air bases. Saudi Arabia has said no. Iraq has said no. Even Turkey have joined hands with Iran and say that if Iran will be attacked, that we will consider it a war. Now, this is called the United Muslim Front, because UN is gone. And I'm talking about the UN in the context of why our neutrality. We in Ireland never actually had a policy of having army, having intervening any other country, and be a small neutral country. That was our stand in Second World War. Now that stand is coming under huge threat that our triple lock system of neutrality must be shaken, must be removed, and then we can be participating in other countries' war, and be part of the NATO and all that. So this is something, a big debate is going on. And by the way, it cannot be removed by referendum. Any group of, the ruling government party can actually take action and do that. And that's a bigger issue, and I will return to that some other time. But for the minute, United Nations has agreed, under the pressure of Donald Trump and Netanyahu, to remove the United Nations peacekeeping force from Lebanon. So the Israel can actually go out, and they're bombarding right, left and center Lebanon. Who are the Lebanese? Lebanese are majority of them Shia Muslim people, and they have a resistance force, but that's what under force is coming to remove them from there. And we have agreed as well that yes, because our peacekeeping forces, Irish peacekeeping forces, had a terrific track record to keeping the peacekeeping in that region. Because I've done a research on a documentary called Attack on Ateri. Ateri was a small village in Lebanon, owned by some like 70-odd poor farmers, very well aged farmers, but the land was very rich, and that came under attack by the Zionist regime. So who defended that? the Irish troops have defended a Terry village and put up the resistance to the attack from the Zionist regime. So Colonel Sheehan was the actual thing, and I met Colonel Sheehan here at the Cara here in Kildare on one occasion, and he told me that we stood up for the defending because we were serving under the United Nations peacekeeping force and protected those poor 700 farmers. So this kind of peacekeeping forces is being asked to remove, and maybe we can have a discussion on that maybe another force should be put together there while that was being removed. But anyway, these are deeper thoughts, and I will be playing another song. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this particular track.
मैं भी दीवानों का एक शाहज़ादा हूँ, मैं भी दीवानों का एक शाहज़ादा। तुझे देखकर हो गया कुछ ज़्यादा, खुदा के लिए मत बुरा मान जाना, खुदा के लिए मत बुरा मान जाना। ये लब छू लिए नशे में इतना ख्याल कहाँ, तौबा ये मत वाली चाल, झुक जाए फूलों की डाल, चांद और सूरज आकर मांगे तुझसे रंगे जमाल, हसीना तेरी मिसाल कहाँ, तौबा ये मत वाली चाल। गम उठाने के लिए मैं तो जिए जाऊंगा, गम उठाने के लिए मैं तो जिए जाऊंगा। सांस की ले पे तेरा नाम लिए जाऊंगा, गम उठाने के लिए मैं तो जिए जाऊंगा। की देवी तेरा मुजरिम मुसीबत के सिवा कुछ न दिया, गम उठाने के लिए मैं तो जिए जाऊंगा। सांस की ले पे तेरा नाम लिए जाऊंगा, गम उठाने के लिए मैं तो जिए जाऊंगा। तू ख्यालों में मेरे अब भी चली आती है, अपनी पलकों पे उन इश्कों अपनी पलकों पे उन इश्कों का जनाजा लेकर तूने नींदें करी कुर्बान मेरी राहों में, मैं नशे में रहा गैरों का सहारा लेकर। गम उठाने के लिए मैं तो जिए जाऊंगा, सांस की ले पे तेरा नाम लिए जाऊंगा। गम उठाने के लिए मैं तो जिए जाऊंगा, गम उठाने के लिए मैं तो जिए जाऊंगा, गम उठाने के लिए मैं तो जिए जाऊंगा, गम उठाने के लिए मैं तो जिए जाऊंगा।
Great song, Gham Uthane Ke Liye Main To Jiye Jaunga. This is called the deep love for somebody you have, if you have deep love for somebody. And those sort of songs and these kind of lyrics are no longer around. That's the reason I pay attention to them. That's the reason I play them, because they have depth in them about love, muhabbat, respect for each other, and all the rest of it, not like today's songs. Anyway, folks, today's program was produced by myself and presented by myself with my colleague Sharad Awasthi in London, and of course the newscaster Charmaine Colvin here in the studio, and also our technical team led by Lee Brennan, and of course there's many people who were responsible for putting together this particular program. So thank you everybody who put their hands together, and I am rushing off because the time is running out. And another beautiful song that I really like to play before I go is Aane se uske aaye bahar, jaane se uske jaye bahar. Wow, what a thought, what a thought. That is somebody who comes, brings the season, brings the beautiful weather, and if that person goes away, that season and that wonderful weather goes away. So I'll play that song and take a bow from you, and thank you very much indeed for listening to my program. Do please continue to listen. This is the Apna Radio broadcasting at 93.9 Dublin South FM. Every Thursday, I am here until 4 o'clock, and India time until 9:30. I'm there. So there you go. So once again, have a great weekend. Have a lovely weekend, and enjoy life wherever you can. Don't take any stress. Don't take any bullshit from anybody, even if it's had to be a bully like Donald Trump. Anyway, bye for now.
क्या गुमां हो रहे हैं, हर कली हम पे शक कर रही है, फूलों का दिल भी कुछ बदगुमान